Well, my definition of hope is tied to perseverance. So if someone's willing to persevere in the face of adversity, he's basically driven by this force that we call hope. This ability to persevere with the hope that you would come out on top and survive is what, for me defines hope. My name is Umar Saif, and I share hope all the way from Pakistan.
Welcome to I Share Hope, the podcast where world leaders share their real stories of hope and how you can use actionable hope to start changing your life today. And now, here's your host, Chris Williams.
Umar Saif, you are one of the world's, I would say, leading entrepreneurial thinkers and innovators. And I've been involved in that space for quite a bit of time personally as an entrepreneur here in the States and as a mentor through an organization called StartCo, where we do a lot of incubator work as well for startups from the States and a few from overseas. But what you're doing is way past that. So your education is unbelievable. I'd love to hear stories about your time.
I went to Harvard for a very short course, and I'm hesitant to even call myself an alum of Harvard, but I was there for about 10 odd days for a course on global policy, which was extortionately expensive somehow. I worked at MIT for a good 4 years, and before that I did my grad school at University of Cambridge in England. Wow.
That's impressive. And then you're really involved in Pakistan. So you're in Pakistan now. Where are you at in Pakistan?
I live in Lahore, which is it's sort of a very historic, traditional city in Pakistan. It's also one of the largest. It's the capital of the province of Punjab. Punjab is the largest province in Pakistan. About 60% of people in Pakistan live in Punjab. And if Punjab was a country, which is this province, it will be the 9th largest in the world by population.
Really? Wow.
And as you know, Pakistan is the 6th most populous country in the world.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So, Umar, you're known for a computer scientist, for being a computer scientist and an entrepreneur. And you need to explain this because I don't understand this, and maybe I won't even have you explain it. I wouldn't be surprised at that. But you're known for your work using ICT. Explain what that means.
So ICT stands for Information and Communication Technology. That's basically Internet and computers. So most of the time that I, in the last few years have spent trying to solve local problems of Pakistan and in general the developing world using interesting IT solutions. As it happens, most of the products, IT products that get designed, and my favorite example is that of an iPhone, are designed for markets that are fundamentally different than the physical realities, the economic realities, the social realities of countries like Pakistan and in general the developing world. So for instance, the iPhone 5 is designed for a market where people are tech savvy, want to install applications and use it as a full-blown entertainment device. Whereas the top 3 uses of a device like a cell phone in Pakistan is that to give what is called a missed call, which is calling people to let them know that they must call you back because you don't have enough money to make a full phone call, is to use the cell phone as a torch because of all the electricity outages, etc., and to use the cell phone as an FM radio because that's the sole source of entertainment. And the iPhone or the new exciting new greatest and the latest Android phones are not really designed for that. You can torture that device to do all 3 things. You could turn on the flash such that it starts to look like a torch. You could use it as an FM radio by inserting headphones in it, etc. But that's not the functionality that device is designed to perform. So therefore, most of the work that I do is in figuring out solutions to very local problems of the developing world.
That's surprising to me. So the flashlight, the FM radio, and then the call and hang up to just let somebody know to call you back on their own dime or their own penny, their own cent, their own whatever currency you want to use. So the flashlight makes sense. The FM radio, that's interesting to me. So most programming in these developing countries comes still over the radio waves, not via connection to a cell phone tower or internet. Is that correct?
Well, so internet is very patchy, and one would expect that, even though, the mobile internet, the availability of mobile internet would change this parity a little bit. And there's obviously television, there's terrestrial television, but people who are on the go and own a cell phone, for them, the FM radio in the cell phone is a major entertainment pull to invest in this technology. They're basically using it to make missed calls, which is to ask people to call them back, and to use it to listen to songs that they like on FM radio. And that's essentially, how these cell phones are used. Now, obviously, there's no cell phone in the world that's designed for those two purposes. There's some products that are designed for the developing world, hence have those features, but no one in the world is kind of thinking about designing products for just that. So that's just sort of an extreme example in the spectrum, but I think there are lots of interesting products, solutions, and a lot of research that needs to be done in how technology is used in the developing world.
I love it. Wow. That's creative and extremely engaging. And then there's so many people who are just tapping that market now. For an entrepreneur like yourself and for so many other people who'd love to back projects financially, I would think there's a lot of investment opportunity there if you get the right information behind the right product. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. I think there will be, Google's waiting to happen, Google scale companies waiting to happen from countries like Pakistan. Between Indonesia and Pakistan and Philippines, etc., you have one of the largest markets for cell phones, for instance. Pakistan is the 9th largest market for cell phones anywhere in the world. We have 135 million cell phone users in this country. We are also one of the largest texting countries in the world. Pakistan is the text arena that they use the phone to also send text to each other. I think they sent about 253 billion SMSs just last year as of published figures.
Wow.
So there's a lot of opportunity for monetizing the use of technology in this part of the world.
So a program like this, I Share Hope, we record it and then we release it on an MP3 file via podcast typically, but we have a direct MP3 file download link on our website. Is that something that the average cell phone user or average person in Pakistan could actually get a hold of? Or is that type of file or media not really accessible?
Well, I think media is accessible, but the bandwidth, etc., is not such that you could use streaming video, any of that, in real time.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Well, sir, let me ask you these questions about hope. So here's how we do this for anybody who hasn't already heard the background. We're interviewing 1,000 leaders of hope around the world. What that means, practically speaking, an easier way to think about that is every 8 million people on the planet would get one representative on the survey. That's how the numbers break down. So this is an amazing opportunity because we're talking into Pakistan, which has a very different view of the world than other places. Each person we talk to is so different and comes from such a different background. And yet there's these common themes of hope that seem to connect humanity all over the globe. So, Umar, I really appreciate your time. Question number 1 is, what is your definition of hope or your favorite quote about hope?
Well, my definition of hope is tied to perseverance. So if someone's willing to persevere in the face of adversity, he's basically driven by this force that we call hope. And my favorite thing to say about hope is this little incident that I was told in college by a professor, where he explained an experiment, I think done on frogs or mice or it was a laboratory experiment, where they put frogs in water for several hours, and the frogs had to swim to stay afloat and to stay alive. At the end of that experiment, they allowed some of these frogs to drown, and the rest were rescued and put into another jar. And that same experiment was repeated again. The ones that got saved, because they had hoped that they could live, in the next experiment swam for much longer, actually 10 times longer, in the hope that they would survive again. Whereas the ones that were new to the experiment gave up much more quickly. So I think this ability to persevere with the hope that you would come out on top and survive is what, for me defines hope.
Great example and a great definition. I've never heard of that experiment, and that's very consistent with so many of the other conversations we've had here on I Share Hope. If you do win and you succeed and you get another chance, it really does build for the next chance and the next chance. And there's so much needed in the way of giving a chance and an opportunity to yourself or to others around you, just to instill that hope and allow people to keep going, because people are so strong and tenacious and can do so much. Question number 2, who's given the most hope to you? Who's delivered that hope so you can grow in your strength?
I think the one person who's given me a lot of hope is my father. I suspect that will also be consistent across interviews. I look up to him, my dad. He's certainly given me a lot of hope. He's worked much harder than anyone that I know, and started out from basically nothing and built himself up to what he is today. And I wish and hope that I could come up to his standards and the way he is. And my favorite thing to say about him is that he silently taught me everything that I am and everything that I hope to be. Wow,
that's wonderful. So your father is still living and they're in Pakistan with you or nearby?
Yes, and one of the primary reasons, he and my mom, that I came back to Pakistan.
Wow, that's wonderful. It really is. And then question number 3, and I don't know if this will get in there with your dad's story or just your life. Question number 3, what's been a time in your life where you've really had to lean on your tenacious hope, that determination to continue moving forward, to keep going? How have you used hope in your own life to overcome adversity?
Well, as far as personally I'm concerned, and I suspect it's probably that way with most people, life is very cyclical. Cyclical is probably making it sound predictable, but cyclical in a very unpredictable way, where just about every new challenge that you take up takes you to a point where you have to see very, very dark days before you could turn it around. And for me, it's consistently been that way. So I've lived many lives. I continue to live many lives where I'm a university professor. So I do research. I'm an entrepreneur. I've done little startup. And I now both run a university as its vice chancellor and head public sector IT projects for the government in Pakistan. And in all these lives, because each one of these were new challenges when I started this sort of a different life, and maybe there's these 4 lives that are running in parallel. Each one, takes you to really, really dark days where, your startup idea, you spend many months trying to raise money, building a team, building a product, and someone else comes up with something much better, and months of effort just goes down the drain. And then you try it one more time and try it one more time, and it's about to work out. Your team, your co-founders leave you. When it's about to work out, your investor pulls out. Likewise, in government, there are things that you want to do, and you come this close, and the government changes, or someone key decision maker that you're working with, goes away, etc. So there are lots of times when you really, think that you can't keep it together anymore and can't keep going. But over time, I think one thing that one develops, and that I think is sort of almost interchangeable with hope, is faith, where you kind of develop, maybe just by going through these really dark periods and downtimes, is this faith that eventually all these dots will connect, and all the effort that you're making and all the dues that you're paying to accomplish something will come through. So if one door closes, another door will open up. But somehow, in hindsight, these things will work out. And I'm not very old. I'm in my mid-30s. I've certainly convinced myself of this self-belief, of this faith, that if I keep at it, eventually things will work out. And so far, they almost always have.
You're right. You're right in that many people seem to say the same type thing. If you keep going, just keep going, getting past that dark day, whatever is it in your life, if it's an illness, if it's a period of depression, if it's a business or a governmental issue, incarceration, addiction, we have so many stories, but so many people continue to say, you have to move forward, keep moving forward, because you'll catch it sooner or later, you'll catch on. you get it. You'll make the next step. You'll make the right connection, whatever the genre is. Great advice. So question number 4 then, how are you using hope today? So how are you building that into your own life or in the lives of others around you?
Well, I think just the fact that you develop this faith that things eventually will work out if you do all the right things, that you have honesty of purpose, you are paying your dues, working hard, and you're making sure that you never do anything that might hurt or harm other people. So you're doing all the right things, and that things will work out. Once you develop this, this faith, then it's also easy to share that faith with a lot of conviction, which I do with all the young entrepreneurs that I work with. I run a very large startup incubator here, where you get people that come in with ideas, wanting to build interesting products and companies. And I think the number one task that I have is to evangelize hope, is to sell them this faith, this self-belief that if they keep at it and do all the right things, they will one day succeed in life. And I think once an entrepreneur, a professional, a university student internalizes this message of hope, then most of your work is already done. Then it's just a matter of time before, they get their big breakthrough. So I actually rely on this, and I think a large part of my day is spent in evangelizing hope, in spreading this faith that if you're doing all the right things, you will get somewhere. And I think once someone internalizes it, that's half the battle.
Great points. And leading into question number 5 then, so what are some simple steps? If I'm one of your students, how are you going to tell me to continue building that hope? Are there 2 or 3 simple steps that I should keep repeating and going back to make sure that I don't get lost in the weeds, but actually stay on the track and keep pursuing my goal or my need to change whatever in life?
Well, I don't know how to answer that. One thing that helps me is my own credible story that I tell people who work with me that, see, this is working hard for me, so please keep faith. Also to inspire them with examples of other successful people who've gone through very dark times in life and have come out and have subsequently gone on to do very well, especially people doing IT startups where the success rate is literally 2%. This is the sort of thing that really needs to hit home. But I think also statistically, if people are doing the right things, they do keep getting this positive reinforcement every so often. So I think in some ways, you have this faith and leave it to higher forces to guide you and to keep you on a straight and narrow by rewarding you every so often and showing you the light so that you don't get lost in the woods.
Great point. Great point. I love the message of keep moving forward. And it really does. You keep finding those opportunities where you get that positive reinforcement and you do continue seeing a new way. And really, there's so many times where in my life, it sounds like in your life and in other people we were talking to, you might have never seen the way to achieve or accomplish or succeed at something if you hadn't gone through the really dark period. And that continuing to come back and trying again, even if it's 10 times later or 100 times later, when you finally see that moment, that's when the breakthrough happens, not just in entrepreneurship, but in whatever situation you're coming through in life. That's really great advice. Thank you. Well, sir, you've been tremendous. Is there anything else that you say, we really should understand this about hope or this about how you've succeeded in life? Is there anything else you'd want to leave us with, a last nugget of truth?
I think, one, I want to applaud this effort, this effort of spreading hope. Those teams, seems odd in the sense that no one's doing it and seems like such an obvious and a simple thing to do. But I'm glad that someone is. In a country like Pakistan, where there's a security situation, this is a very young country. About 60% of the population in Pakistan is below the age of 30, and so therefore lots of young people, really struggling to figure out what they are and what this country is about, and about religion and extremism and where do we stand vis-a-vis the rest of the world, and just the economic challenges and the challenges of a developing world that a lot of people in this country are going through. This message of hope should resonate well with such people. And we need a lot of hope and ample amounts of this hope, especially in a country like Pakistan.
I'm glad you're there. I'm glad you're on the side of hope. I really am.
Thank you, Chris. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Sir, it's been a privilege to talk to you. Thank you for your time. I'll reach out to you, and if people want to hear more about you or follow you on social media or websites, how do they stay in touch with you and follow your progress?
Well, my Twitter account, my Twitter handle is Umar Saif. So people wanting to follow me can follow me on Twitter.
So the Twitter handle is @ and then UMARSAIF. Umar Saif.
Yes.
Excellent, sir. We'll put that in the show notes, and we'll look forward to sharing this story of hope.
You've just listened to I Share Hope. If you're ready to make a change, head to our website at isharehope.com and claim your free copy of the Top 10 Actions of Hope from World Leaders to use hope in your own life. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.